Welcome back to today's video. In this video, we're going to be seeing what the 2020 presidential election would have looked like if COVID never happened. And as we all know, Donald Trump's main reason why he lost the 2020 election was because his handling of the pandemic. And now if COVID never happened, in this video, I will be predicting what the outcome would have been like if COVID never happened. Now, before we begin with the video, I do want to mention that we do have channel memberships. Scroll down on this video, click the link in the description, and the link will also be pinned in the comment section as well. Or you can just click the join button on my channel page. We have custom perks. Don't forget that all members do get a shout out. So become a member today, click the link in the description, or click the join button. Now that we have channel memberships out the way, let's go back to my actual prediction. And now here was the outcome of the 2020 presidential election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I'm going to make adjustments to the map, and I will make some changes for a few battleground states or swing states that I would think they would have gone different directions if COVID never happened. Because I really do think that Donald Trump did get cursed with COVID, and I think if COVID never happened, Trump had a better chance at actually defeating Joe Biden. Because there are actually 4 swing states that Biden flipped actually were only won by Biden by under a percentage point. That's how close the 2020 election was. It may seem like Biden destroyed Trump, but that actually did not happen. You see, Biden got 306 electoral votes. That may seem like a lot. It's kind of deceiving. But if you take a look at actually the margins of the states he flipped, like Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, were all within a percentage point. So that it was actually closer than 306 electoral votes. But, I mean, that's the fact. And so let's begin with the map. If COVID never happened, let me change some states. Let me make adjustments to some states. First state I would like to change is the state of Nevada. Now, I don't think Trump would have won it if COVID never happened, but I would like to change the margin. I'm not going to change only the winners, but I will change some of the margins. Instead of lean, I do think Nevada could have been tilt. It could have been closer than what it had been. Joe Biden won it by 2.3 percentage points. I still do think if COVID never happened, Joe Biden would still win Nevada, mainly due to the fact that the Vegas area, the Las Vegas area is very hard to flip, and I don't think Trump could have done it. So instead of a lean margin like it was for Biden 2020, if COVID never happened, I think Nevada could have been a closer margin, a tilt margin, but I still do think Joe Biden had the edge because just the Vegas area is just super hard to flip. So I still do think if COVID never happened, Biden would still win Nevada, but I think the margins would have been closer. Instead of 2.3%, maybe 1%. So now that we have Nevada out the way, another state I would like to flip actually in Trump. First state I would like to flip in Trump's column. If COVID never happened, I do think Biden would not win Arizona. I do think Trump would still win it. Now, he won it by a lean margin in 2016. I don't think he would have won it by a lean margin in 2020 because of his statements, his comments he made around John McCain. When it comes to talking trash about John McCain, Arizona voters get extremely, extremely offended by the words Donald Trump, use against John McCain. So Biden's margin was just too small of a margin in Arizona to actually have him win if COVID never happened. He only won it by 0.4% with COVID. So imagine there wasn't COVID. I definitely would say Trump would win. Maybe not by 3% like in 2016, maybe by 1 to 2 percentage points. So I do think if COVID never happened, Trump would have won the state of Arizona. And by the way, Arizona was one of the states that actually helped Biden actually win the election. Same with Georgia. Now, speaking with Georgia, another state I think Trump would have won if COVID never happened was the state of Georgia. He won it in 2016 by 6 percentage points, lean margin. I don't think he would have won it by 6% in 2020 if COVID never happened because the African-American turnout was extremely high, which helped Joe Biden, mainly due to George Floyd, the BLM riots, which hurt Donald Trump. And not only that, Donald Trump does not have good relations with Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, which is extremely approved of. Brian Kemp always overperforms Donald Trump in Georgia. So with that being said, I think Donald Trump pissed a lot of the Brian Kemp people off, so they turned away from Trump. And, that helped Joe Biden actually win the state, and he only won it by 0.2%. So similar with Arizona, I think Georgia and Arizona could have voted very similarly in the same direction in 2020 if COVID never happened. The margin was just too small for Joe Biden. He only won it by 0.2%. So considering that, if there was a small error for Joe Biden, it could have easily went to Donald Trump. And considering that if COVID never happened, Georgia would definitely, most certainly go to Donald Trump. So instead of 6% like in 2016, I don't think Trump would have won it by a lean margin or that much. I think instead he probably would have won it by just around a percentage point or maybe even 2%. And then another state that I would say would, I would change if COVID never happened is the Rust Belt state of Wisconsin. I do think if COVID never happened, Donald Trump would win Wisconsin for his second election straight in a row. And the reason being is Wisconsin only voted for Biden around 20,000 votes, which was about 0.6%. Extremely close. This is another state that only went to Biden by under a percentage point. There's actually, I believe, 4 swing states that were won by Biden by under a percentage point. That's how close the election was, even though it says Joe Biden won by 306 electoral votes. It still was closer when you take a look at the actual margins of every state. So if Donald Trump could have done slightly better, if COVID never happened, I think he probably would have won it by still under percentage points, similar to his margin back in 2016. So that's another state I would actually flip. And then now when it comes to margins, I don't think Virginia would have flipped to Donald Trump, obviously. But when it comes to margins, instead of a safe margin, I would say it would have been likely. As we all know, Virginia was won by a comfortable, safe margin for Biden in 2020. Mainly due to the fact that COVID just obviously I call it the COVID curse that really hurt Trump. If there was never COVID, I think Donald Trump could have had a legitimate shot at winning re-election. And instead of a safe margin, maybe it could have been a likely margin, but still it's out of reach for Trump. Donald Trump is not that favored in Virginia, as we all know. Virginia is a state that does not typically like a candidate like Donald Trump. So I would have changed the margin in there. Instead of 10%, the margin Biden won it in, maybe it would have been 7%. It's still a likely margin. So that's the margin I would change. And then as for North Carolina, it was won by Donald Trump by a tilt margin. I actually would not change that margin. I actually do agree that it would be a tilt margin for Donald Trump, even if COVID did not happen. Because in general, the state of North Carolina, I just think that Donald Trump, in 2016, he won it by 3%. But I think Biden was more of a moderate candidate, quote unquote moderate candidate. At least he seemed like a moderate candidate back in the 2020 election, which could have pulled some voters away from Donald Trump because he was just so moderate, which obviously now voters are reconsidering, and voters that chose Joe Biden over Donald Trump because he was more moderate are now saying that Joe Biden is not moderate. So that can swing voters in 2024. But we are talking about the 2020 election, where Joe Biden was seen as such a moderate candidate. And so that's why I think North Carolina would have probably still been the same margin for Donald Trump had COVID not even happened. But it still doesn't matter. It still would have went to Donald Trump, just like it did. And then when it comes to Michigan, Joe Biden won it by 2.5% in 2020. If COVID never happened, I do still think that Joe Biden would still win Michigan, but not by a lean margin. Maybe a tilt margin still would be closer, but it doesn't matter, as I still do think that Joe Biden still would have won Michigan even if COVID never happened. It's just a state that I think Trump got lucky when he won Michigan in 2016. It was Hillary Clinton. Imagine Joe Biden. It was Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is far worse than Joe Biden. So with that being said, I do think regardless whether COVID did or did not happen, regardless, it still would have went to Joe Biden. But I think it would have been closer. It could have been closer if COVID never happened. Instead of a lean margin, maybe I would say a tilt margin, but I still think Michigan would have went to Joe Biden. And then the state right next to Michigan, another Rust Belt state, is Pennsylvania. And then this where things get a little interesting. Donald Trump won Pennsylvania back in 2016 by 0.8%. That was extremely close. Similar to Michigan, that was Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden was seen as more moderate in 2020, which swayed a lot of Rust Belt voters into Biden's favor. And if COVID never happened, I do think Donald Trump had a way better shot at winning Pennsylvania. I think he could have. But with that being said, even if COVID didn't happen, I would still give the slight edge to Joe Biden. Now, he won it by 1.2%. I think he could have, if COVID never happened, it would have been way closer than 1.2%. I know 1.2% is extremely close, but I think it could have been decided by 0.3% for Joe Biden with that margin, probably 0.2% if COVID never happened. Joe Biden was just seen as a moderate candidate that swayed a lot of voters. And the main reason why Joe Biden actually won Pennsylvania was because Erie County is located in northwestern Pennsylvania, and that was the tipping point county that helped Joe Biden. So Erie County will be very important in the 2024 election. And when it comes to the 2024 election, talking about a state like Pennsylvania, if Trump can do better in Erie County and possibly flip that one county, he can very well flip the entire state of Pennsylvania. And also Philadelphia, when it comes to the popular vote, Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh area, those types of suburbs, the suburbs in Philadelphia overwhelmingly supported Joe Biden, and that was the main reason why it flipped. Now, when it comes to polls were completely off. They had Joe Biden, average polls in Pennsylvania had Joe Biden winning the state of Pennsylvania by around 4 to 5 percentage points. That was completely wrong. He only won it by 1.2%. So imagine the 2024 election where we have a much disapproved of Joe Biden. Donald Trump can definitely flip Pennsylvania. And with this map, I do think that there was a great chance it could have been a tie at the end of the day. If Biden still won Nevada, if Trump won Arizona, if Trump won Georgia, if Trump won North Carolina, if Trump won Wisconsin, but if Biden flipped Michigan and Pennsylvania, it would have went in a 269 to 269. So if you were to ask me which election would have a higher chance at ending up in a tie, 2024 or 2020, I would definitely tell you 2020 had a higher chance of ending up in a tie than 2024 would be. So yeah, and it could have ended up in a tie, to be honest. With this map, with how I have things just panned out, I think this actually could have ended up in a tie if if my prediction would have went like this. So if COVID never happened, it could have went into a tie. So instead of 306 electoral votes for Joe Biden, if COVID never happened, he would probably get around high 260s, maybe 269 in a tie. But yes, if COVID never happened, obviously Donald Trump had a way greater chance at winning. So let me know what states you agree with, what states you disagree with, and let me know in the comment section below. If COVID never happened, do you think Trump would have won, or do you think Biden still would have won? And don't forget to subscribe as we are approaching 800.